Hey everybody, Edo here, and as has been tradition on the channel, I am going to do my what I did differently for the Maul Peak Kickstarter. If you are not familiar with Maul Peak, it is the standalone cross-compatible sequel to Skulk Hollow, and it is coming to Kickstarter in just a few days, April 5th. But what we're going to be talking about here is very industry-centric. As a Kickstarter creator, I think this is like my 15th campaign, my 16th campaign. What are the things that I'm still doing the same and different as time progresses, industry change, world events, all of that good stuff? So, to some degree, one of the important things, and I'm not really going to get into it now, we talk about it in our design video, you know, Maul Peak being a standalone sequel to Skulk Hollow was like a major decision tree, how we did it, rather than just doing additional smaller expansions and making them cross-compatible and things like that, and the Battle for Boar mode. That was all part of the product side, but I'm really just going to focus in on the Kickstarter. So thank you, Skulk Hollow. We'll set you aside for the time being. We have other stuff to talk about, but I'm going to set Skulk Hollow down. Okay, so I think up front, the biggest change that I'll be doing is I've decided to use a pledge manager with this campaign. I'm using Jetbacker, a pledge manager with this campaign, and not charging shipping within the campaign. That, for those who have watched what I've done, is a big change for me. I did do I did use Jetbacker for Herbaceous Pocket Edition, but it was free shipping, which this is not. And that was a little bit for add-ons post-campaign. There are like two main factors. And why didn't I do it? I thought, I don't do crazy bundles. I'm fine using the Kickstarter surveying system. And as a backer, I really have never liked paying shipping after the fact. I just don't like it as a backer. Now, it has certainly been the case that there's been a growing trend of this being 100% acceptable and common, and even to the point where some backers appreciate it. But generally speaking, since it wasn't how I like to do it, I didn't do it. So what changed? Well, two things. So one, you know, shipping is expensive. It's always been expensive. It's never been cheap. But it has been so crazy and so volatile over the last few years with everything that's going on. It's a big deal. I actually was strongly of the opinion 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, has been doing all this, that you know, the idea that you couldn't predict your shipping costs was crazy. Like, I just felt that you saying, a creator saying, well, I couldn't possibly know what my shipping is, so I have to charge after, to me felt like somewhat disingenuous. Like, you very clearly could. And that's not a particular criticism to anybody. That was just sort of my feeling on it. I, however, now don't think that, I mean, now it really is that crazy. Whether there's surcharges or additional charges or delays or overages or like, there's so many factors now, like, and you know, there are things happening geopolitically, like, it is, so that to me is now at a point where I agree, or not agree, but now I certainly feel it's volatile to the point that it's hard to predict it, even though you are going to say generally what you're going to have. Two, and this is actually new and big, there's been a wave of folks who are becoming reticent to the Kickstarter platform for a variety of reasons. It's something that Pencil First Games is observing. We're obviously been Kickstarter for a very long time, and you know, we've had Maul Peak set up on Kickstarter for a while. I'm still figuring out my perspective on it as I go, but I definitely know there are people who've already figured out their perspectives and whatnot. So for me, and I don't typically do robust aftermarket pledge managers with the exception of Herbaceous Pocket Edition, but by taking an approach with a pledge manager, there will be an opportunity for folks who like are adamantly against Kickstarter to still essentially back the project and pledge. So it's a middle ground, but it wasn't. I think it's very relevant right now to the conversation as it's evolving and different things are happening. So that to me is like by and large the big change, which includes things like not including the shipping in the pledge on the right, directing you down to the gigantic shipping section. The other thing that's happened over the last few years is VAT and customs and all of that. So getting that matrix together, it now looks like what everyone else does. We used a lot of other campaigns as models, but it's just not typical to what we're doing. So I really think that's the biggest. We have experimented with different retail approaches. At this point, we don't have a retailer pledge, and this is, I think, similar to Proliferous. We don't have like a pledge tier. We just have a sign up, and then we handle it separately from the campaign post when we know the project's together. I've, in a retail situation and all that stuff, I don't like that's an easier thing to manage when you have a much clear window given shipping and other aspects of it, especially since you're not going through that charging process up front. So I think that was similar to Proliferous, but that is something we're doing again. Another novel part of this campaign is, so we had Maul Peak. Now, okay, this isn't so novel, but I've done this on a number of campaigns where we've, like, Herbaceous Pocket Edition was one where essentially for Liftoff, Get Me Off This Planet was another, where the expanded deluxe edition, where all of the Kickstarter stretch goals essentially I feel like are mandatory. For Maul Peak to be cross-compatible with Skull Hollow, it requires it to be as the components have to be as good. They have to be the same size as, like, I can't have small, like it has to fit and be level. So as such, I can't. It would be odd for me to make all these stretch goals and then not unlock them, but then have to unlock them. Like, I know this product has to deliver in that context. However, there's still major considerations, milestones, and part of what's going on. So what I did, and like I did on Liftoff, is I do have here are the stretch goals. They're unlocked. This is what we would have done. They're unlocked. It's awesome. So it's not a stretch goal by stretch goal by stretch goal campaign. There are some engagement concerns about that. Like, it's a missed opportunity to have that chase it, FOMO, chase it type of thing. But I've found that it makes the most sense. This is a 3-week campaign. I had moved to 2 for a lot of products, but this is a really big campaign for us. This is going to be the biggest. Skull Hollow was our largest campaign to date. Hopefully this performs similarly, or we'll see, but wanted to give it that extra week. The other thing, though, that is different is, so with our games, we typically do something that is free to the Kickstarter backers. Over time, it used to be exclusive. Now it's something that can come to market separately, but it's outside of the box. And the first thing we did was an Ancient Relics mini expansion. Now, this actually is similar, mechanically the same as the Skull Hollow one, but it's based on the Maul Peak biome, winter mountainy stuff. And definitely wanted to make it. It's a really fun part of the game, but it also, I don't know. I think if you backed Skull Hollow and you had it, you might feel like, well, that's not really, I sort of have this, I sort of don't. And we were thinking about it and thinking about the game and other ways we could expand the game. But one of the things that came up along the full course of development was people eager for solo experiences within Maul Peak. And we actually went through and did a bunch of development around it. Guardian and different modes and using things. And, we made progress in different places, but often it was like, why wouldn't you just make that Guardian not just a solo Guardian, but an all Guardian? Or like, well, then to do this right, you would want to, like, make unique things for every single Guardian. And it ended up not coming together in a way that Keith and I were particularly happy. Well, one of the things that we then ended up doing, which was super, super interesting, I'm really excited about this, I'd be curious to see how it goes, is made this World of Bore, which is sort of the universe of our games, Runes and Runes. And what this is separate from the game. This is free. It will retail probably for 10 or 15 bucks, but it's free to Kickstarter backers. And what it is it's a narrative scratch-off adventure that is set between the two games. So you're gonna, you flip over, it's an order deck that you're flipping over that has a series of choices you make that have scratch-off moments with actual, like, scratch-off paint, whatever it is, as well as, like, discovery scratch-off games and puzzles that you work through, and everyone is playing as an Arctic fox, this guy here, but you get to give it, the fox, its own name. You're going to earn titles, and as you play, you have different meters of time, wisdom, courage, that you are effectively changing the outcome of this character. And as you play through the narrative and work from that game to this game, like in the moment between the two games fictionally, because they're not at the same time. That happened, and now this has happened. You play through it, and at the end, and it has some punch board and some other things, and at the end, you get this character that's somewhat unique to you that will have unlocked an ability and a couple other things, and that then gets mixed so that you can play with this character in Skull Hollow or Maul Peak. And I'm not going to sit here and say there's like 5,000 variants, but my one could be a little different than yours as we play. And you can always scratch off everything too, right? But that's, you know, that's not the point. So it's interesting. It's interesting because it's not the same. It's filling a small void in the game, but not in the way, you know, not like just make a solo out of this. And it's also delving into the narrative a little bit. So, and like, it's super cool. Like, this is really, it's really come together well. So this is unique. It's unique in that it's its own product. It isn't the same. You know, recently Tidal Blades launched effectively with 2 games for sale, right? One was a narrative, one's the other one. I'm not actually deep in the mechanics, but I do know there were 2. But it's like, this is kind of that vibe, but this is free as an adder to anyone who purchases it, and it's going to come in, you know, with the game. And then, you know, if this works out, the expectation is if we continue along the line with these, we'll continue to put them in between. So it's a fun little thing that gets added. So the value proposition is it's lower than MSRP, and you get some free stuff. And we'll see how that goes, obviously. I think beyond those things, when the campaign launches, scroll through the page, it's going to look very Pencil First Games, very all the formats that I stick to. I think it's pretty classic in most ways. Super excited to see how it does. So, again, you know, I can link the campaign and in this video, certainly if you're interested. But just generally, I always appreciate folks running and driving in and doing the Kickstarter thing. And so hopefully these videos do give some perspective on how things change and alter over time. Awesome. Thanks. Bye. Hey everybody, Edo here, and thanks for watching Gaming with Edo. Reviews over here on this playlist, League and Insider videos over here on this one. Subscribe, share, all that good stuff. But most importantly, play some great games. Thanks.